This is News Talk 980 CKNW.
Well, I don't think anybody was all that surprised when the Bank of Canada said, no, we're not going to raise interest rates, but their warning about this quarter's economic growth did grab our attention. And I want to talk with our business expert, Michael Campbell, about something he's been talking about for years on Money Talks that'll have a major impact on your job. But, Mike, let's start with the latest economic forecast from the Bank of Canada.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Nobody said, I thought they were going to raise rates. But they did say this, and I thought it was noteworthy. They've sort of put their estimate to how insignificant the fire-related destruction around Fort McMurray is for the overall economy. We lost oil production, et cetera. Their guess is it's going to cost the economy about 1.4% in this second quarter. And that's very significant because they are already saying, Linda, that this period was going to be weak. I think they had about 1% growth forecast in their April update, but now it's going to be in the negative, they say, or be ready, it could be in the negative. And then they say, and I think we all expect this, once the rebuilding starts, you'll get that rebound in the third quarter, and the oil starts flowing again. But I just want to say one quick thing about that. I hear some nonsense that somehow the destruction is good for the overall economy. Those people are very confused. What we're going to do is spend billions of dollars, whether it's insurance dollars or a government dollar or individual dollars. We're going to spend billions of dollars to get back to square one with nothing else to show for it. And, as opposed to taking that money elsewhere and purchasing other assets, et cetera. So, no, this is not good for the overall economy, but you will see stronger growth numbers in the third quarter.
Yeah, the only thing positive I can see coming out of Fort McMurray is the fact that no one died in the fires and that Canada finally had a little bit of sympathy and understanding that average human beings work in the oil patch.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the most flabbergasting things for me in this whole debate when we do talk about resources and oil and pipelines is that I never hear the anti-pipeline proponents talk about the impact on individuals in the community. And by the way, I've been saying that for ages. That sentiment was echoed by the NDP Premier in Alberta, Rachel Notley, saying, come on, can we have some compassion? And you're dead right. It was great to see Canada rally behind this huge community disaster, and I thought that was the positive, too.
Yeah, me too. So Fort McMurray aside, obviously no pressure to raise interest rates right now.
No, there isn't, but, there had been pressure building, if we were going to get this, to lower rates. So I think they'll be watching that, but I think the loonie's sagging off a bit, from that 80-cent mark, getting a touch under 77. That's what I think the Bank of Canada is watching right now. So, yeah, there is absolutely no pressure to raise rates, and the pressure to lower rates, I think, depends on what the Canadian dollar does.
Well, that'll be interesting to watch. Let's jump to another topic. We've been talking about it on my show. I know you've been talking about it too. And that's about what impact technology is likely to have on your job in the future, or even right now.
Well, I'll tell you the two things. If I mention technology and what our education system is not doing, or if I mention just wanting technology and technological substitution to be part of the debate on raising minimum wage abruptly, not slowly, but abruptly, along with other labor costs, the hate mail just flows. But let me give you a couple things. Just today, Adidas is finally back manufacturing in Germany. And the reason is really straightforward, because their plant is going to be predominantly staffed by robots.
Oh, boy.
And that's how you get around the high cost of labor and a high cost of regulation. I guess about 2 weeks ago now, Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, opened their first fully automated food outlet called Original Plus in Shanghai. But here's the thing. It's not just things like, these automated ordering systems, the kiosks there, or they're making the food that way. No, it's actually managed by artificial intelligence,
really?
too. So another couple of really, these are easy examples to understand, and that's all I'm talking about. We have to prepare for this.
I always think about technology, and I picture the classic car assembly line with the robotic arms and what have you. Are we mostly talking about sort of low technology jobs, lower skilled jobs?
Yeah, that's a great example, and no, we're not. That's the easy one, and the reason I'm concerned about that is because usually a lot of people in that category don't have the educational background, so they can't fall back on their education and hope to get something else. And keep in mind, I've always been amazed in the media that we sort of have ignored this broad subject, not that there isn't going on, but applying it to these other big issues we're talking about. I'll give you an example. In our business, robo-journalists, it's a software application, but they call them robo-journalists. journalists writing a lot of the stories you see in newspapers that are sort of nuts and boltsy kind of stuff. Do you remember when we used to have projectionists in theaters? That was another big hint, because I knew someone who was in that business, and I warned him. I said, I don't think you're going to be in business long, and he wasn't. But here's another example, Al, of what you're saying. Just looking at a firm called Ross Intelligence in the States, and they've built a system that's sort of based on that IBM's Watson technology you saw on Jeopardy years ago.
Okay.
It's working with a big U.S. law firm, 900 lawyers, and they're adapting artificial intelligence for bankruptcy matters. That's just the first of many that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Looking at a report earlier, McKinsey is a big global consulting firm. They estimate as many as 45% of activities that people are paid to do right now could be automated by adapting technology available today. And that's scary, but I'll tell you where it's going to happen. It's going to be much more likely, and you mentioned like car manufacturing, for example. It doesn't mean that they're going to have nobody there, but it's going to mean that through the use of adaptation of technology, their productivity is going to be so enhanced, we won't need as many people to do it. And, of course, we've got 100 years of those examples, when we used to make things by hand and then we mechanized, et cetera. This is another faster-moving adaptation of that same concept.
Yeah, and you talk about the media. We see it in television with the studio cameraman and various people. It used to take 20 of them to do the job. Now they've got a robot doing most of it and just a couple of human beings. So you're right. It's going to make your head spin. But you mentioned that some people get mad when you talk about our education system and technology.
Yeah, because it's too late. If we start adapting after the fact, forget about it. We're going to have a permanent underclass of individuals because they don't have some skills. They've maybe been trained for the wrong job. So it's going to be a huge challenge on two fronts, not just our public education system. And I mean, come on, we're just adapting now something on programming in this coming new curriculum. But what gets people mad is when I say we've had a heck of a lot more focus on social justice issues than we have on the future employment. And there is a big disagreement. There's a lot of people in the educational establishment who don't think it's the job to prepare our young people for tomorrow's employment. I think it is. And there's a great quote. Let me just finish with this because I know we're out of time. But Daniel Pink, he's the author of a book called A Whole New Mind, and he talks about the challenge for education because more and more average work can be done by a computer or robot or something like that. And he says, vanilla doesn't cut it anymore. Our schools have a doubly hard task, not just improving reading, writing, and arithmetic, but entrepreneurship, innovation, and creativity. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'll tell you, by ignoring this, I think we are doing a huge disservice to young people, and then we've got to, again, continue to adapt adult education.
Yeah, totally agree. Michael Campbell, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Vancouver's News, Vancouver's Talk. This is News Talk 980, CKNW.